Urban Decay Naked3. Naked3 is a palette of pink and nude pink eyeshadows launched by Urban Decay in 2013. Urban Decay was founded in 1996 in Newport Beach, California, by a woman who was tired of the fact that the only makeup options in stores were beige, light pink, and red. The brand name was deliberately chosen as the antithesis of what existed, and the Naked line, launched in 2010, was the product that transformed the company from a cult brand into a global phenomenon. The Naked3 palette features 12 eyeshadows in shades ranging from rosy nude to dusty copper, with finishes that blend matte, shimmer, and duochrome. What technically differentiates it from other Naked palettes is its pigment base. Urban Decay uses what it calls a T-base, tone perfecting base, which adjusts the tone of each eyeshadow to appear more true to life on the skin, regardless of the wearer's undertone. In practice, this means that the same pink shade from the Naked3 looks different on very light and very dark skin, but it works on both. What Naked3 represents in the market goes beyond the formula. It was launched at a time when eyeshadow palettes were either completely colorful or completely neutral. Naked3 created a third category that didn't have a name before: warm neutrals with personality. Today, this category exists in practically every brand on the market. Most of them came later. Anastasia Beverly Hills Soft Glam. Anastasia Beverly Hills was founded by Anastasia Sor, a Romanian immigrant who arrived in the United States in 1989 without speaking English and went to work as an eyebrow specialist in Beverly Hills. She developed an eyebrow mapping technique based on the Greek golden ratio and built a celebrity clientele before launching any packaged products. The Soft Glam palette, launched in 2018, is technically one of the most balanced palettes on this list. 14 eyeshadows are distributed among warm neutrals, terracotta, burgundy, and dusty gold, with a deliberate ratio of mattes to shimmer. 8 mattes, 6 shimmers. This ratio is no accident. ABH formulated the palette so that the mattes would be the building block and the shimmers the finishing touch, meaning the palette has a built-in logic in its color selection. Soft Glam's matte eyeshadow powder has a consistent reputation for high pigmentation and blendability, that is, the ability to blend without losing color. This is technically difficult to balance because high pigmentation and high blendability often contradict each other in formulation. ABH solved this with controlled pigment particle size, something entry-level brands rarely invest in. The result is a palette that works for both professional makeup artists and beginners, and this explains why Soft Glam continues to sell consistently more than 6 years after its launch. Natasha Denona, I Need a Nude. Natasha Denona is an Israeli professional makeup artist who spent decades working in fashion and film productions before launching her own line. She entered the palette market in 2014 with prices that the market considered absurd at the time. One of her palettes cost 2 or 3 times as much as those of her direct competitors. The justification was the formula. The I Need a Nude palette, launched in 2021, features 15 universal nude eyeshadows with a specific technical ratio. All shades were developed to work on any skin undertone, from the lightest to the darkest. This required a different formulation approach. Instead of creating shadows and testing them on a range of skin tones, Natasha Denona started with skin testing and built the shadows from the back to the front. What's unusual about the Natasha Denona formula is the absence of talc as a bulking agent. Most eyeshadows use talc to give body to the powder and reduce formulation costs. Natasha Denona eyeshadows use mica and silicone spheres instead, resulting in a smoother texture on contact with the skin and less fallout. That is, the powder that falls under the eyes during application. It's a technical detail that professional makeup artists notice immediately. Regular consumers notice that the result looks different without necessarily knowing why. Huda Beauty Pretty Grunge. Huda Katan founded Huda Beauty in 2013 in Dubai. After building a makeup following on Instagram before any products even existed, she was one of the first people to transform digital influence into her own cosmetics brand on a global scale, and she did so at a time when the model didn't even have a name. The Pretty Grunge palette, released in 2023, is technically the boldest palette on this list in terms of color selection. 21 shades blending worn nude, gray, petrol blue, and black, with finishes that include duochrome and pressed glitter. It's a palette that demands intention. You don't accidentally open the Pretty Grunge and end up with a tame makeup look. What's interesting about the formulation is the pressed glitter. Glitter in eyeshadow palettes is technically problematic because the glitter particles have different sizes and shapes than the pigment particles, making uniform compression difficult. Cheap glitter palettes often have severe fallout because the pressing is inconsistent. Huda Beauty uses a cold pressing process with a specific binder for glitter that maintains the integrity of the product without compromising the intensity of the shine. The difference is visible upon application. The glitter adheres instead of falling off. Pat McGrath Mothership. Pat McGrath is considered by a significant portion of the industry to be the most influential makeup artist in the world. She has worked on fashion editorials for decades, collaborated with virtually every major haute couture house, and launched her own line in 2015, starting with a single gold glitter product sold in simple plastic packaging that sold out in minutes. The Mothership line is the brand's flagship palette line, with multiple versions released over the years. Each Mothership palette features 10 eyeshadows in a formula that Pat McGrath calls Pigment Pearl Fusion, a combination of high-purity pigments with synthetic pearls of varying sizes that create optical depth in the finish. In practice, this means that the shimmering shadows in the Mothership palette have a dimensionality that is difficult to replicate because it's not just glitter, it's layered glitter with depth. The price of a Mothership palette ranges from $125 to $150 depending on the version. It's the most expensive palette on this list, and it also has the lowest production cost to selling price ratio, not because the formula is bad, but because what you're largely paying for is the name, the packaging, and the symbolic weight of owning a product signed by the person many consider the greatest living makeup artist. This is a neutral fact, not a criticism. It's simply how the luxury market works. Makeup by Mario Master Mates. Mario Dedivanovic is the makeup artist responsible for Kim Kardashian's look for over 15 years. He didn't found a brand to sell a lifestyle. He founded a brand to sell technique. Master Mates, launched in 2021 as one of Makeup by Mario's first products, is an entirely matte palette with 12 neutral shades built with a single stated goal: to teach contouring and color transition to those who don't know how. The formula for Master Mate's matte eyeshadows has something technically specific. The shades were developed in a sequence of color temperature, from coolest to warmest, so that each shade next to the other in the palette acts as a natural transition. You don't need to know color theory to use the palette because the order of the colors is already the color theory applied. This seems simple. It's not. Most palettes are organized by visual appeal, shades that look good together in the packaging. Master Mate's is organized by function, shades that work together on the skin. It's a difference in product philosophy that completely changes the user experience, especially for those who are just learning. There are people who bought the Master Mate's palette and learned how to do eye makeup for the first time with it. Not because they watched a tutorial, because the palette itself has a logic of use that guides the hand of the person applying it. That's product design in the most literal sense of the word, an object that teaches while it's being used. 6 palettes, 6 stories that the packaging will never tell you. If someone you know is about to spend $150 on a Mothership without really knowing what they're buying, this video is for them.